In the 90s, many animated shows tended to center on children going to school, and they would sometimes incorporate fantasy elements to make that environment into a more exciting place for viewers. Probably one of the most inventive was Flying Rhino Junior High, a Canadian cartoon produced by Nelvana and which aired on CBS's Saturday morning schedule and on Teletoon in Canada. The premise involved 4 students and their classmates dealing with the self-named phantom residing in the school's boiler room. What was he doing there, you ask? Well, he got a bad grade in shop class. You know, the classic supervillain origin story. Each episode would have the Phantom, real name Earl P. Sidebottom, getting irritated by the students' actions or the lessons being taught and manipulate the school using his computer and science skills. Thus, our main characters would have to stop Earl and restore everything back to normal, all while teaching a message along the way. We had Marcus, the super genius of the group, and often the one who figures out how to save the day. There was his sister Ruby, who would often grow the most annoyed at Earl's antics, and tended to be a bit self-absorbed. Then there was Billy, who was a boy, and Lydia, who was a girl. Yeah, these were not exactly the most fleshed out protagonists, but they still did the job of giving us our eyes and ears into the strange predicaments at Flying Rhino. Earl is really the star of the show, and gets some of the funniest and most entertaining scenes. Even just looking at how absurd his origin story is makes him a hoot to watch, and a lot of credit goes to voice actor Richard Binsley, who gives Earl a screechy quality, but never in a way that grates on the nerves. He is also joined by his rat companion Radicus, who's Earl's polar opposite in every way, and that makes their interactions even funnier. The crazy thing is that Earl is shown to be a whiz with technology and able to alter reality in many different ways. He could make millions off of his technology, but okay, torment your old school because of a petty grudge. That works too. His abilities go beyond merely turning the school into a rainforest, though. A few episodes reveal Earl to be capable of time travel, while another episode has him open a portal to another dimension. Then there's another episode where Earl somehow makes a school part of his internal human body, so the children end up traveling among his organs and interacting with his white blood cells. The wildest revelation comes when we find out Radicus is actually the result of Earl taking a random rat and giving him human intelligence and speech. This only comes up in one episode, but only reinforces how hilariously warped Earl's priorities are. The other adults who populate Flying Rhino also add a lot to the show's humor. Principal Mulligan is a rhinoceros, although one joke hints at it being a skin condition, and is hilariously oblivious to the changes happening in the school. There's also the janitor, who happens to be a pig, and as the theme song suggests, is actually a spy, although a few episodes delve into this. The teacher, Mrs. Snodgrass, ends up using the school's transformative abilities to expand on the lessons of the day, and her general calmness ends up as a solid running joke. Disguised underneath the adventures, Flying Rhino Junior High was also an educational cartoon. That made it a natural fit for CBS's Saturday morning block, as the FCC at the time required a specific amount of educational and informative programming. However, the show managed to implement the lessons in a way that felt natural. The writers would touch on multiple different subjects ranging from ancient Greece to the solar system to insects. Thus, the series avoided feeling too repetitive. The fantastical aspects of the show mixed well with the more informative lessons too. The educational elements usually appeared via the lessons taught by Mrs. Snodgrass, which the characters would use to their advantage to stop Earl. It was good to see the children use their wits and smarts to solve whatever problems they faced in a given episode. Flying Rhino even showed appreciation for subjects that were often not part of the educational curriculum, but nonetheless important. In the episode Comic Book Chaos, the show argued that comics are just as worthy to be considered literature as the classics, and deserve recognition within the classroom as a way to excite students about the power of reading. Nowadays, comic books and graphic novels are slowly starting to be seen as legitimate reading material for educational purposes, but this thought was not common in the 90s. Another episode taught about the value of video games as a good tool for quick thinking and puzzle and problem solving. The writers were also able to incorporate a message, so the characters were able to grow and understand their flaws. A few of these messages were even ahead of their time. In the aforementioned comic book episode, Lydia's interest in the medium, and superhero comics in particular, is dismissed by the boys. Unfortunately, this backwards viewpoint is still expressed these days, but to see a cartoon from 20 years ago tackle this idea head-on shows the creative team knew what was up. Quite a few episodes also spiced up the formula of Earl terrorizing the school by having him directly interact with the students. In one episode, he gets stuck in the school hallways and disguises himself as a girl. When the school turns into a rainforest, Earl finds himself requiring their help. There's another episode where he sends the children back in time, and they encounter Earl before he received that dreaded bad grade. The Christmas special completely breaks from the episode structure by focusing entirely on Earl having a nightmare where Radicus is the Phantom. These storylines did the job of fleshing out Earl and making him more than just a standard cartoon villain. By the end of the series, there is a general understanding of his history, motivations, and what makes him tick. Flying Rhino Junior High only lasted 26 episodes, and is mostly only remembered by those who watched the show when they were younger. However, I think it's worth a revisit, and still holds up as a show today's generation can also watch. It was a clever premise that successfully combined humor, adventure, and education, and the character designs also added to Flying Rhino's appeal. Oh, and the theme song is incredibly catchy. I consider Nelvana to be one of the top television animation studios, and Flying Rhino Junior High is another example of the high quality they prided themselves in. See you next time.